Good afternoon. I'm Noah Himmelstein, Associate Artistic Director here at Everyman Theater. Thrilled to be here for our 5th installment of our Kitchen Table series. I'm most excited about today's episode. It features the world builders of our theater, the incredible designers and director of production who create the magnificent designs that we love so much, and all the spaces that we get to play in with each show. So without further ado, I will begin with Daniel Edinger. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, guys. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you. Daniel is our resident scenic designer. He's been with us many years, and he currently teaches at Towson University. His work has been seen all over the region and in New York. Some of his most memorable designs at Everyman have been Murder on the Orient Express, Sweat, The Book of Joseph, A Streetcar Named Desire, Outside Mullingar, Bly's Spirit, and many, many others. Daniel, we're thrilled to have you here.
It's so great to get to be part of this. I've enjoyed all the other kitchen series Everyman's been doing, so getting to be a part of it is a great opportunity, great fun.
Great. Next, we have Harold Burgess. Harold is our resident lighting designer, who is currently sitting within Daniel's set and Harold's lighting design of The Importance of Being Earnest. It's wonderful to see that. Harold's work has been seen at Olney Theater and at Everyman. He teaches at College Park. His work is magnificent. We've seen it in Radio Golf, Dinner with Friends, Murder on the Orient Express, Importance of Being Earnest, Aubergine, Dot, many, many, many others. Harold, thrilled to have you here.
No, thank you so much. It's great to get the chance to talk with you. It's been so long, so I'm excited to kind of join the conversation and be amongst all of our colleagues. Thank you.
Fantastic. Next, we have David Burdick. David is our incredible resident costume designer. We've loved his work for many years. His work has been seen all over and all throughout the area, the region, and most memorably in Murder on the Orient Express, Sweat, Dancing at Lunasa, Long Day's Journey into Night, The Revolutionists. It goes on and on and on. David, we're thrilled to have you here.
It's really great to be here and share this virtual space with all of my colleagues once again. It's not quite the same as being in person, but great to spend some time.
Terrific. And last but not least, we have Mandy Hall, our fantastic director of production. She's done over 75 shows at the theater, and she is saving us right now with her tireless work for reopening and COVID protocols, and we are just indebted to her and her expertise and talents, and I'm thrilled to have you, Mandy, join our conversation.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I wish I was sitting in a tech with all of you, but I'm happy to be here virtually.
Yeah, soon enough.
Yeah.
For everybody, it's sort of unusual to have a resident company of designers. What does that mean to everybody? This is a very freelance life, being in the theater, and to have a home where there's work for you. What does that mean to you guys?
Well, it is exactly that. You can develop great relationships with other companies, but a designer tends to go from show to the next show to the next show, which is a different theater and a different theater and a different theater. And so to actually get to be a part of a company where you're helping the whole company grow and move forward, and you get to know the staff in a way that you don't often get to know. You get to see the families that the staff is having, which is so great. We've had so many babies come into the world at Everyman. It's just it's not only the work connection, but the connection to the lives of everyone else that you're creating this artwork with. It's just really special. And then, I get to know Amy Kellett, who's usually our amazing scenic artist, and what her skills are. And I start designing shows based on what I know comes out of her hand really well, which just deepens the work. The same thing with our technical director, Bill, and his ATD. Everybody has really amazing strengths, and to get to know them that well means you can really key in to what they do well with what I want to do. So it's just great to have that kind of long-term connection.
Yeah, I would add to that. Vinny, our artist director, always talks about the family aspect of Everyman, and I think that is so true. And so to be a part of a resident company and a resident design company, and to be amongst all the performers, the management staff, the technical staff, all those folks, is truly special. And I look at it, when I go to work, I'll put my air quotes up, when I go to work at Everyman, it is, for me, it's really like kind of going to the playground. I get to get in the sandbox and play with all my buddies and have some fun. And I think that's really a testament to how closely connected we all are. We really trust each other. We have open conversations. We sometimes get frustrated with each other. We always laugh at each other. That always happens. I'm sure that happened today. But at the end, we always know that we're all working towards the same goal. So it's really excited to be a part of that whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I'll third that, I think. And it's, I mean, it's really extraordinary to develop the relationships and developing relationships with fellow designers and sort of developing a shorthand and, like Harold said, trust. But it's also like fantastic as a costume designer to work with actors that are in the company that I've been able to develop relationships with and develop that trust over the years that I've worked with them. And I know their quirks, not that any of them have quirks, but we,
all have quirks, Dave.
Yeah. But a lot of times when you go into a project and you haven't worked with someone, it's sort of like, you're going on a first date and you're learning about them and working with both the actors and fellow designers. It's like you sort of skip that first date phase and you already have a relationship that's there to build on.
And David talking about getting a relationship with the actors, which is actually a little unusual for the designers to be so close to. And for example, when I was working on Outside Mullingar, and I was trying to create this family history kitchen for Beth, who was playing so beautifully in that show. And I knew her mother had a thing about collecting ceramic chickens. And so I covered that kitchen in ceramic chickens. And she just her reaction when she came on stage the first time was just really wonderful. And how are you going to get to do that if you're moving from company to company? Having that is just really special.
I love you all hit on that, because I know when we talk to our actors, they all talk about the depth of relationship that they bring on stage that is invisible to most of us, and then we just see how they drop in. And I certainly feel that working with the three of you, that you bring all of this institutional knowledge of the actors. How to, with Harold, with your skills, and with David, that you know how to tailor your work to our company in such a magnificent way. And I in talking to audiences, you guys are so versatile that a lot of them don't realize how much you've done, because they all feel so different. That you all have your own aesthetic that we love, and you're able to realize each show as it needs to be realized. But you continually are challenging yourselves in new areas and never sort of resting on what you know.
Well, that's the other thing about being a member of the company, is you really do want to prove yourself to the group you're with. But also, over the time, designers use language a little differently, and you can talk about color, and it can mean very different things. But I know now when David and I, or Harold, we talk about color, we're sharing a language that we've built, which is really great. That shorthand just really helps move things forward. And every once in a while, when I've put out something on stage and I see the costume arrive and I go, oh, David's not going to be happy with that. And we make a change, because, it's important to me. It's a part of the process that's really fun and exciting, and getting to be that familiar with it is just kind of great.
Yeah. So the three of you have done countless shows together. You've worked on Importance of Being Earnest and Sweat and Orient Express. The list goes on and on. when you're working with a director, how close do the three of you work on what you're working on since you have such a great shared knowledge of each other? What's that relationship like?
Well, I got to say, more often than not, in our first production meeting or second production meeting, one of the other designers around the table is going to say something that's going to change what I'm working on. I mean, I usually come in, you know, I've got to have a sense. It's gonna the saws are going to roll and the steel is going to get cut pretty quick. So I generally have to come in with a start, but I can't think of a time, particularly recently, in the last 2-3 seasons, where that hasn't been, I haven't been really affected by what they bring in. And both Harold and David, I got to say, bring in the most amazing visual research, which is just really fun to get to jump off of as I'm thinking about things.
Yeah, in terms of that research, I mean, I want people to understand more, like the amount of work that you do in advance that we don't even get to see, but that just is there to spark ideas. I was in a production meeting for Importance of Being Earnest, and Harold, you brought in these like Fifth Avenue windows, and can you talk about like how you do lighting work before there's even a set?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first to go back to some things that Daniel said, you know, and you're going to hear us throw compliments back and forth to each other, but they're all genuine. But I think, you know, and I'll say this is very true of David as well. They both come in very well prepared for all the productions I've worked on with them, both in terms of research, in terms of idea, in terms of understanding what is the story we're trying to tell. And obviously it depends on who the director is as well, in terms of who's kind of pushing us forward. But I think, you know, I always know that when Daniel comes in with the set, he's already thought really deeply about a lot of things. And so the fun part for me is to kind of question things, but doing it in a way that I know that he's going to be receptive to it, and I'm not going to discount things that he's already done, right? And the same thing with David. David comes up with research that is so like impeccable and so detailed and specific that it's intimidating, right? Because it's like, okay, wow, he's already at that level. All right, I got to, you know, step it up. So in my own research, you know, it's tricky because lighting is ephemeral. It's abstract at its nature. It's not something that, you know, people necessarily fully understand, or, you know, you just know that if I can see something on stage and it looks nice, then great, and you don't think any more of it, which is what I want. You know, I don't want people looking at, oh wow, lighting's amazing. No, just can you see that? Can you see and hear the story? Great. So in my process, you know, it's about trying to find ways in which I can kind of understand what my role will be and help supporting that story. So research can really help me articulate those ideas and show what I'm thinking, rather than just relying upon me trying to describe it, because that's so challenging and difficult, and everybody may hear things differently. But if I can show them an image and say, I'm thinking this color palette, or I feel like the light might have this kind of quality to it, then I think that's much easier for others to kind of understand and say, okay, I see where you're going, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, one of the things you know, again, continued admiration society, but you know, I love working with Harold because he's really the only lighting designer that I've ever worked with that brings that kind of imagery to a production meeting. And you know, countless times it's been inspiring. I mean, you mentioned the importance of being earnest. I mean, those, you know, the like seeing those store windows that Harold brought, you know, was inspirational to me in terms of, you know, color palette. I mean,
well, talk about having to talk about color palettes. Wow.
Right?
Between all three of those sets, you know, that was,
here's one of them.
That was a pretty fine needle to thread there.
Yeah. I just love, and having worked with the three of you, how you dip into each other's disciplines in inspiring ways. You know, often lighting designers show up in tech, and you know, the set is there, and then they make it look even better. But that was a specific example where David was inspired by what you brought to the meeting, and then Daniel went in one direction, and then you don't even know whose work is where, but we just all disappear into the show, and it's glorious. So I just love that.
Yeah, and I think that's born out of a respect for the craft and the discipline, but also a deep respect for each other's work, and that we're all playing an important role in trying to help tell the story. So if my work isn't doing what it needs to do, then that means David's work's going to suffer and Daniel's work's going to suffer. So I will always come in prepared and understanding, okay, what do I need to do to kind of help make the set pop the way that Dan has designed it? What do I need to do to make sure that David's costumes have we see the texture, that the intricacies of what he's put in on stage. How do I make sure that we can see that and feel that? Because that's a very important part of his process, and it's a very important part of building character and telling stories. So, I see it as a way of just, if you're not doing your work at a certain level, then you're going to bring everyone else down with you. And the last thing you want is to feel that way.
And that's that trust we talked about earlier. It makes such a difference how you're seeing this. What Harold controls of what David and I do. It's just so wonderful to be able to trust Harold.
I mean, in the situation with Ernest too. I mean, Daniel came in and said, I'm going to do a white set, like Designer Nightmare. Well, Daniel, I'm going to raise you great big hats.
Yeah.
Lighting Designer's Nightmare.
Oh, we love telling Harold this one's going to have a full ceiling, and it's going to be all white and all mirrored. So, okay, go. Good luck. That's fun.
And moving scenery too.
Moving scenery. And we're going to give you one little slot to get that little light, and it better be damn well beautiful. So
we just got a comment from, here's Murder on the Orient Express, I worked on, but we also just got a comment from Deborah Zoloffer, who was the writer and director of Be Here Now, which we worked on. Yeah, so tell me, that was a contemporary show. David, when you are such a master of fabrics and embedding character in clothing, I'm thinking of that piece. I'm thinking of Dinner at Friends, which was a contemporary piece, but I'm also thinking of the Revolutionists, which is in 17th century France, but yet has a really great modern spin. Where do you feel most at home, and what's the difference for you of those different styles?
I mean, I love doing period work. I mean, I think that's fun for sure. I find doing contemporary shows oftentimes more challenging. Because contemporary clothes are have gotten so sort of homogenous. So to me, it's like it's much more challenging to bring character to like a contemporary show, and that's my job. It's to support the actor in foreseeing their, like their vision of the character and support that. So it's, it's like contemporary is like super challenging. So, I mean, it's all really fun and interesting. I mean, to be able to get to do something like the Revolutionists, which sort of combined, history, but, took that little twist on it. Was a lot of fun and interesting, and not something I've gotten to do very often. I mean, I'm usually doing contemporary shows or like the full-on period drama, but so that one was really fun to be able to do.
So the Revolutionists that we just saw, that was one of the first shows where we introduced, or maybe the first show, automation onto our stage. And for those who are watching, that's where things move by themselves, basically, and it takes a lot of technical wizardry for that to happen. We did that on Sweat. We had a revolving stage, Book of Joseph, Murder on the Orient Express. Mandy and Daniel, as the masterminds behind this really intricate work that appears as magic to us, what were those tech experiences like, and what did you learn from that?
Well, yeah, you're right. The Revolutionists was the first time we hooked up motors to moving scenery.
No, there was one on Outside Mullingar.
It wasn't mine. Oh,
no, we did on Outside Mullingar. Yes.
I was just going to say, in Outside Mullingar, we had all these people backstage pushing big wagons around. Same thing for one of my favorite shows we've done, which is, by the way, Meet Vera Stark, that thing. But wow, what a bear pushing those wagons around. Yeah, there's Marvelous Dawn. She's, how incredible that was. But yeah, with Revolutionists, we really started hooking things up to motors. And I don't know how, we lucked out on that one. Things went pretty smoothly. As they did for, what did I scribble down? Some of the other next things, we used some motors on Book of Joseph, moving panels. And then we got really greedy. And we decided we were going to move a million different things in Murder on the Orient Express. And wow, this was where, thank God, the amazing tech crew, I mean, everyone was doing everything they possibly could, but we had just really overextended how far we could push this computer control. And Mandy had to come in we were in tech with things not working. And Mandy made the calls and brought in the crew that knew how to fix the things we needed to fix. And our guys were great about accepting that help, I think.
Mandy, how did you navigate all of that?
Yeah.
Well, you just get to it. Well, automation is magic until it isn't.
Yeah.
It needs to be fixed. And with a very smart stage manager who helped say, these things need to work in this way, and can we do this in this way? That helped a lot. And,
the manager was Kat Wallace, who was managing this program and moving our heads around. So thanks for that.
And automation we're on a learning curve with it. We love it. There will be more of it in the future. And I think the more that we get to use it and the more comfortable we are with it, and the equipment that we need and have and will continue to invest in is just going to make it better and better. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing when I think about Outside Mullingar was a cast of 4, had a crew of 6 to push that scenery. It was a big crew. Same thing with Vera Stark. Those big, huge platforms that moved required 2 to 3 people on it to move those things, and that is true. Automation computers do have a mind of their own. Yeah. Programs. Yes. So it lessens the crew. You spend your money differently, just on the equipment, and then the equipment moves, and it's safer for people too. It's safe for everyone. You can sort of, if everything is going the way that it should, you can count on it.
Boy, but when the automation works, I just remember that first scene shift into the bar in Sweat with Harold's lights, where suddenly everything went dark and we started sliding panels that had to move at a very specific moment for things to be able to turn. And suddenly the lights came up through the front door of the bar, and you could see Dawn and the other cast members dancing under that music. And then the reveal of that was like, come on, that was a real highlight.
We had a question come in for Harold. When you work with video designers, how does that impact how you approach your work?
It's a great question. So when talking video, we're really talking about projection design. So we're talking about images that are overlaid on top of the set in some way, or they're somehow integrated within features in the set. So for example, with Murder on the Orient Express, we had to create the idea of a moving train. And so there was a whole panel of windows that Dan had designed at the set that were all rear projected and had an image of the mountains and things passing in the background. So for a lighting designer working with things with video, obviously we're talking about light on stage in both areas. So it really becomes a little bit of a dance in terms of understanding who is doing the storytelling part and who's doing the kind of support part. So as a lighting designer, I have to really kind of think about what surfaces are being used for projection, where I need to make sure I don't put light, because obviously that can sometimes kind of dilute the effect of the projection, but also understand how does projection and light, how do you marry color How do you get texture to work? How do you get rhythm and those things to work? And that's all those things we kind of really work out, mostly in tech, because you don't really know how it's all going to really come together until you're sitting in tech and go, okay, that's not what I thought I was going to do at all. Okay, that's new. And so there's a lot of language and vocabulary, we trade back and forth in terms of trying to understand how can we help serve each other and help, figure out how to tell the story in the best way that makes sense. And oftentimes for me, lighting, it's easier to change lighting oftentimes than it is for video, because video means they have to go and change content. Lighting, I can just turn a couple lights off or something like that, or I can kind of reshape the look, and we can move forward. So a lot of that is just a give and take.
Fantastic. For all of you, what has been your favorite experience? Has there been a moment? I mean, some of you have sort of talked about a couple, but a moment in tech where it all, like sort of Daniel's memory of sweat. For each of you, what is that moment where it just everything you imagined was better when you saw it in front of you?
Wow, there are so many great shows to remember. I mean, I remember the simplicity and the power of the brothers' size in the old theater space. And when you got a simple concept in terms of how it was staged on top of powerful performances by those guys, really. So there's a moment where no scenery tech whatsoever, but you can be pretty happy that you're doing material that's pushing your audience forward, where you're really getting to do something exciting. I remember way back doing a number with Kyle Prue. Talk about a lighting designer's nightmare. That was an all mirrored set. And then the more recently, once we got it through, I gotta say we were probably all pretty pleased with ourselves the way Murder on the Orient Express came out. Although, I can't stop. It's like the donut revolve in Book of Joseph. We got some beautiful moments coming out of that. With the projection work, to talk about there being projections in that show and the lighting work that Corey Paddock did for that. Everyman is a place where you get to have a lot of opportunities to be pretty pleased about how things come together.
Yeah, and that's again a shout out to the incredible people, our electrician, wardrobe. I mean, the list goes on and on, all under Mandy's charge. Mm-hmm. The craftsmen who actually with their hands make these things.
Yeah.
I want to add, actually, Noah, and pick up on that thread just for a second, because I think it's such an important part of being in a resident company. All of us have done freelance work. We go to other theaters and do things, and that's very much like you come in, you kind of do your work, and and you say thank you, and you leave after the show goes up, and you're done. But I think walking into Everyman, it's not also just working with David and Mandy and with Daniel and with you and Vinny and so forth. It's also working with the technical crew, because really they're the ones who actually make this image behind me. They're the ones who actually really make that possible. I mean, yes, I have the artistic say in what the lighting is doing, but at the end of the day, I really rely upon the work of the technician, from the TD Bill and his crew to getting everything in place so I can focus light on it. That's a really important part. To our house electrician, Juan Juarez, who does amazing work in doing little detailed stuff that nobody would really notice because it's done so well and it works. I always tease Juan because I'm constantly using LED tape, which is really small tape that has little lights built into it, but the use of all those things really comes down to the craftsmanship, and without the guidance that Mandy provides in terms of just make sure everybody knows what they need to do and get it going, down to the crews that they call in, that makes a huge difference, and it makes our work much easier, I think, to actually accomplish because of that.
Yeah. David, what about you?
I'll add in, Vera Stark is one that really comes to me. I mean, we made a film, which was amazing. I spent an incredible day with Dawn Ursula doing a photo shoot, taking her through the decades with wigs and clothes and to see that all come together was just amazing. I mean, that's one that definitely to see that film on stage was amazing.
Fantastic.
Me? I don't even know. I feel like there's too many. Like there's different ones, and there's so many like great memories from Charles Street, which were just so simple. And so, like there's those plays, our first Glass Menagerie, like there's just magical moments all the way through. And, the last show, like the very last performance in the old space, and the very first performance in this space.
Yeah.
Those are kind of amazing. And I love that. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been so wonderful. I can't wait to be back in the room. I'm really hoping in 2021 and learning more from all of you. We'll be back on Thursday, December 3rd for our next episode of Kitchen Table, which will be led by Vinny Lanchisi, talking about playing couples with Resident Company. There's several actors who have been spouses in multiple shows. That can be a lot of fun. And we just announced today that we're going to be releasing streaming versions of all 3 shows in the Queen's Girl trilogy, which I'm so stoked about, and filming the latest one. It's going to be gorgeous. So I can't wait to share that with everybody, and check your emails. That should be going out very soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.